Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between Arabic numerals and Roman numerals. And in this discussion, we're going to have here we use Arabic numerals every day. It's numbers like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that we see every single day and we're used to. Now, Roman numerals, something you may remember, some of you guys may not, depending on your age, but they're letters to present numeric values. It was part of the apothecary system in measurement, and we still will see them used when we talk about scheduled medications. Like a Schedule 2 medication is usually written like C2. So that's where we'll see them. A lot of times you'll see a prescription written for a Schedule 2 medication instead of saying number 30, like they fill 30 tablets, they'll write 30 in Roman numerals, which would be X, X, X. And that will prevent anyone from falsifying a Schedule 2 medication. Because if, let's say, a doctor wrote for Vicodin 30 tablets, a person could easily come in and add a zero to the end and fill 300. Now, most likely a pharmacist would question that and wonder, why are we giving them 300 Vicodin? But they could easily alter that, where if you have the number XXX, which stands for 30 in Roman numeral, if they're like, well, you could just add another X to make it 40, this is not a Roman numeral. There's no such thing as XXXX. So that is a way for us to monitor and make sure that some people are not falsifying or manipulating their prescriptions. So if you look here, when we look at Roman numerals, I want to show you this part right here. So all these letters represent a numeric number. So I is 1, V is 5, X is 10, L is 50, C is 100. That one's easy for me to remember because I think of century is 100. D is 500 and M is 1,000. And we're really not going to get above that. If you look at the numbers up here, you'll notice that no letter that represents a Roman numeral has more than 3 in a row. So example, here you have 1 is equivalent to 1, 2 I's is equivalent to 2, 3 I's is equivalent to 3. But when you go to 4, we do not put 4 I's, we put the V with the lower represented number in front of it. So we always go to, like, I would say the ones, fives, tens, 50s, hundreds. So you can really get a value in between these two numbers using these here. Okay, so let's take a look at, for example, one of the hardest numbers for people to understand is the number 49. So if I write 49, could I just not do L1 for that? So it'd be L would be 50, and then I take 1 away, and that would be 49. But you cannot do that. That is not a legit number in Roman numeral. For the number 49, you always want to start with your place value here. So what would represent 40? So if I wanted to represent 40, that would be L with an X in front of it. That's 40. And how am I going to represent number 9? To represent number 9, that's going to be X with an I in front of it. And this is Roman numeral 49. Which you're thinking, why would I do that? That's so much harder. But that is legitimately equal to 49. So let's do a little bit more with Roman numerals here. Let's take a look on the next page. Oops, I darkened this out, so hopefully you can still read it. You can go ahead and, this is posted on your Canvas so you can see it. But when using two Roman numerals of the same value that represents a sequence, add their values. a Roman numeral cannot repeat more than 3 times. That's really important. So for example, 30 is equal to 3x's. When a Roman numeral of a larger value is followed by one of lesser value, you add the values. So here you have 10, x, which represents 10, and I represents 1. Since it's 10 and 1, you're going to add those together, which makes it 11. Okay? Now here, when a Roman numeral is a lesser value followed by one of the larger values, you subtract it. So here, V represents 5 and I represents 1. Well, 1 is smaller than 5, so you'd subtract it. Same thing with 9. So you have x and 1, that's 10 and that's 1, so you would subtract and that would be 9. So these are rules of Roman numerals. So 1, you can't have more than 3 at a time. If you have a larger value followed by a lesser value, you add them. If you have a lesser value followed by a larger value, you subtract them. And then finally, when a Roman numeral is placed between two numerals of a larger value, you subtract the lesser value from the following numeral. So it can be a little bit confusing because here you're like, well, what does this represent? Well, you see this is the 4 and this is the 10. So here we have, I always start like I'm reading a book, and x is 10. And then what do I have next? Well, I have a 1 and a v, so that means they go together because that is lesser than the v. So it's plus 4, which equals 14. Okay? The next thing is Roman numerals over 100 are seldom used in medication prescription. So really learning anything greater than C is probably not necessary. Learning that D is equivalent to 500 or M is equivalent to 1,000, probably not needed because we probably are never going to use those. So that is Roman numerals. Hopefully your instructor will review it with you a little bit further. I'm going to put a quiz out that you guys are going to complete of these practice problems, and I want you to practice figuring out your Roman numerals. And that's it. Thank you.